All right, we're going to get started with downloading Splunk and then showing you how to upload the practice data and also the Fortinet logs for the course. So starting with the Splunk download, you're going to go over to splunk.com and go over to their free trials and downloads. And then we're going to select the Splunk Enterprise package and click Get My Free Trial. This, you're going to need a Splunk.com account. So you need to create that first before you can download the Splunk Enterprise package. So make sure you're putting in your Splunk.com account here and not the account you're using for like Splunk Base or adding on apps and add-ons to the console. So go ahead and log in with your Splunk.com account. Now that you're logged in, you get to choose your download based on your operating system. I'm on a Mac Mini. So if you're on a Windows host, go ahead and get your MSI installer and walk through those steps. Mac OS, difference between the tarball and the DMG package. The tarball, you're going to have more control over the installation and you can set things a little bit more specifically and probably want to do that through the CLI to set the different options. DMG is kind of like an MSI installer, so similar to the Windows version where you go through the widget and just install it. So we can go ahead and make this easy and do the DMG. And once we get that, it's going to start downloading. You can put it to wherever you'd like. We can put it in our downloads folder and click save. And now that DMG package is going to be downloading. So we'll wait for that to finish. Now that it's done, we can go ahead and open up the downloads folder, and it's just like an MSI. So you can double click it. If you're on Windows, go ahead and double click your MSI installer, and then it's going to bring up this window. So all you have to do is install Splunk. So give it a double click, work through your licensing, agree to all the terms, installation type. It's going to take 2 gigs of space on my computer. You can change the install location if you want, but it should put it in applications by default. Put in your credentials for your computer, for your admin, and it's going to start the installation. So we will wait for this to finish. All right, you can go ahead and let your installer have access. So go ahead and hit allow. And then it needs to perform initialization. So we can go ahead and let that run. All right, we've gotten the notification that the installation was successful. Click on the Splunk icon on your desktop to start and connect to Splunk. To start Splunk manually, open a terminal window and run the command. So it did install it in applications, and you can just use the Splunk command for Splunk start or reference the documentation. So a note on this, Windows hosts, if you're installing it, Splunk will automatically start upon startup. That's because Windows systems have a registry. But in Unix land, so our Linux and Mac installers, Splunk will not start every time that you power on your device. You need to put the command in for Splunk enable boot start if you want Splunk to start up every single time that you log in. Me personally, Splunk takes up a lot of resources when it runs, so I kind of prefer it on my Mac to only be running when I'm using it. So I just fire it up with Splunk start, or I double click the icon to launch it, and I don't enable boot start on my Mac. But it's up to you. Just be aware of that. If you log into your Mac or Linux VM that you're using for the course and Splunk is not running, that's because you didn't enable boot start and you need to start it. All right, we can go to the desktop and launch this. Before we start, Splunk needs to perform a brief initialization. So this is where we're going to set up our login information. So my admin username is going to be Haley, and then we're going to set a password here. This is what you'll use to log into Splunk with. Then we would just like to start and show Splunk. It's going to open up our port, waiting for it to be available at loopback on port 8000, default web port for Splunk. And then once this finishes, we'll be able to go ahead and open Chrome and log in. You can log in with the credentials you just made. And now we are logged into Splunk. A couple of things to change. If we go to Settings, Server Settings, General Settings, you can make this run on HTTPS if you'd like it to be more secure, and drop down pause indexing if free disk space falls below 500 megs, not 5,000. That'll just keep your alerts down a little bit. So go ahead and hit save. And then when you do a restart, that'll go ahead and let the changes take effect. But let's go ahead and upload the practice data. So we can go to settings, add data, skip. We're going to select upload. And here we're going to select from our course downloadable materials folder, the tutorial data.zip folder. Now, where you get this from, that's fine. The preview is not available because it's a zip file. You get it from the Splunk documentation for uploading the tutorial data at docs.splunk.com. If you just do a Google search for Splunk upload the tutorial data, it will bring you right here. And the tutorial data.zip is available for download at this link right here. So once you click this, it'll download it to your browser. And this walks you through exactly how to upload the practice data. So add data and upload, and then select a file. That's exactly where we are right now. We're going to select the tutorial data.zip. We're going to hit next to continue input settings. And then host field value. You can delete your computer name. And according to the documentation, it's going to tell you to select segment and path and segment number 1 to pull out the host names and leave source type as automatic. So let's go ahead and set segment and path and 1. And then it'll probably upload to the main index, but for the course, I like to put everything in practice of the index. So you can go ahead and hit create a new index. Index name is going to be practice. Leave all default values as is and hit save. So your screen should look like this. Source type automatic. Host, segment and path. Segment number is going to be 1 to pull out all the host name values from the tutorial data.zip folder. Index of practice. If you don't select an index, it'll upload to main by default. Go ahead and hit review. Once you're all set with the parameters here, should be exactly the same. Go ahead and hit submit. Then we can go over to start searching. And if we just search, it's going to give you all these tours since it's the first time using it. If we just search over our index equals practice over all time in verbose mode, you're going to see that all the host names are pulled out for www1, 2, 3, mail server, vendor sales. Your source types are also pulled out. And you should have 109,864 events. So let's go ahead and get our Fortinet firewall logs uploaded as well. So we can go to apps, find more apps, type in Fortinet. So it's nice to have an add-on for uploading logs to Splunk. So it's just going to give you a nice source type, people to parse them. So this is the app. So we don't need that FortiGate add-on developed by Fortinet. Ingest map security and traffic data collected from FortiGate physical and virtual appliances across domains. So we're going to go ahead and install this add-on. So you can go ahead and put in your credentials. Agree and install. And we can go ahead and restart now since we want that source type to be picked up. So we'll go ahead and restart Splunk. And we can log back in. Now that our add-on is installed, we can go back to settings, add data. We're going to upload and select the other file for the synthetic 40cloudlogs.zip. You can just put this as like 40 firewall, or you can just name it firewall. We're going to create a new index of 40 for Fortinet. Automatic for source type. Review should look like this. Submit. Start searching. Now, if we see our index of 40, we should have our source type of 40 cloud event VPN logs. Should have some actions, domains. The fields are parsed out nicely now that we have the add-on installed, and you can see all the different source files we have from 40 Cloud for VPN, DNS, IPS, traffic logs. So just some other logs to play around with in the course. Some VPN logs. So with that, you should be all set and ready to go with learning Splunk.